In Northern Territory sport, there are some big sporting dynasties. The Riolis, the Longs and the Motlops. And the Motlops are such a big family that we really don't know exactly who everybody is, how they're all connected. And today we're going to find out a little bit more. We're going to delve into the Motlop dynasty. And joining us is Thomas Motlop. Thomas, nice to have you on board.
G'day Charlie, how are you?
Tell us where you fit in this whole Motlop dynasty, because it's a pretty big group.
Well, I have two lovely aunties, Bronnie and Desley, and then you're probably more familiar with my uncles and my father. You got Uncle Eddie, Uncle Mark, Uncle Paul, and my dad Mo, whose birthday it is today. So happy birthday!
Nice timing, I must tell you. And then on top of all of that, of course, was your late grandfather, Chico Motlop. What are your memories of him? Because he died in tragic circumstances some years ago.
Yeah, I just obviously he was just a really powerful figure in sport, and that's what he invested himself into rugby league up here, coming over from North Queensland. So he was really big in the rugby league, and then following on from that, the boys played rugby and footy, my uncles and father, but probably spend more time and just develop that side of football.
And tell us about grandfather Chico then, and his passing. He was killed in a car hit him on a road when he was out running. What do you remember of him?
I can just remember. I remember him being just a great figure and role model. The people going with him, being at him with the rugby and shaking everybody's hands and meeting your grandfather, and even to this day, seeing the old Nycliffe people. We have a lot of family and friends involved in rugby league, but just seeing him around sport and it was just really tragic because he was jogging when it happened. It was just tragic because our family just never went through anything like that. So I think it was just so unexpected and that he was taken from us.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 13, I think. I was in year 7, 12 or 13.
And how did you cope with it?
Oh, it was just a very, very sad time, I think. And coping with it was just, I suppose, just getting on with it and playing sport. Giving back in that way was the way we sort of dealt with it. And sport was awesome because it got us back involved, and I think it does it for a lot of people as well. It helps you move on and gives you that community support.
Well, we remember Chico. Did he play sport in the Darwin at a high level?
Yeah, he was. He played a while ago. Uncle Eddie just went down to Warragul to meet a man who had all these photo clippings and these stuff from when he played against the French for the, I'm not sure what standard of, what level it was at, but it was definitely for some Wallaby side, and the French came over and he played in that game. So Uncle Eddie went to go get some memories of that and some clippings, so he loves driving around Victoria and Adelaide, so he was on board with going down.
And let's talk for a minute about your grandmother as well, because she passed away too in the last couple of years, didn't she?
Yeah, Nana Lorna. She was a very special woman. As a lot of the families up here would know, those ladies in your family are really matriarchs. They just, she always had a home for us to go to, whether we all had our separate families, but we just spent so much time at our nanas, whether the kids were going there after school. Cousins were there. It was just our home base. Like I'm sure, many families will relate to. And she just gave us a place of comfort. And she was a bundle of laughs, and didn't want to joke. So she was a really great, fantastic person. And
so you grew up in this big family with the uncles around you and the aunties around you. It must have been good to be a Motlop as a youngster, because they were such a well-known and held in high regard in the territory. Yeah, I suppose it was just like any family, but a lot of families have, might have a family business and operate. Our thing was playing football, so I think it was just so good. Our cousins, we had a really good bond. We spent a lot of time together. I feel like rattling all their names off at the moment, but it might take a while. But I really love all of them. But it's playing sport, whether we were playing touch in the front yard or going to rugby, we'd go watch Uncle Eddie's team coaching, or whether Uncle Paul was coaching, and we'd always be there or at footy. Now, I'm not sure whether it was you or whether it was your Uncle Mark that told me, but the Motlop boys at the moment, there's just enough to make one football team, a team of 18, maybe even 22.
Yeah, well, possibly if Shannon put against Shannon's jumping around still on his legs, so he's all right. But there's a few young ones getting around, so hopefully the next crop come through.
Yeah, and the women have been terrific as well, and we'll talk about the Motlop women in just a moment. But tell us what it was like growing up with your three uncles and your father, all heavily involved in football, playing at Nightcliff together, and then they split from there and went their separate ways. And there was lots of ups and downs there. But what are your earliest memories of your uncles and your dad?
Saturdays, where either footy was on, so we'd be back at someone's house, or whether we were there on a Thursday night. The discussions were really intense and always revolved around sport, and because either they all coached juniors up here as well, junior footy, and then going on to they all coached A grade up here as well at separate clubs. And Uncle Eddie was really involved in his rugby league, and he's been a great coach there at University Sharks, where we won a premiership there, and just more recently coaching at South Darwin. But yeah, the conversations were always revolved around coaching, who's in, such and such is a good player or not. So I think I really learned a lot from listening to those guys.
Do you remember when they all played for Nightcliff?
I can just barely remember being at Nightcliff Oval, and I remember getting my first sharing footy off an old bloke named Blicky, who was sort of the property steward, I think. I can just remember barely being around that club and going into the clubhouse when they had the old tiger print on the carpet. So it was a fair while ago, but I definitely still have a lot of old uncles, and they're all still really good friends with all of those people. So yeah. Was it destined that you would play footy at Nightcliff? Yeah, I think so. It was pretty set in stone. We were wherever we were, but Ponce Cabillo tells me a story about when he seen me at one of the ovals. He put a Wanderers cap on me when I was a toddler, and told me I'd play for Wanderers one day. So I guess he might have been right there.
Your time did come though to go off and play, not just in the NTFL, but you went into state and played. You played in South Australia and in Western Australia. Tell us about those experiences.
I went down to North Adelaide after I finished playing school to play under 19s, as Shannon did before me, and Daniel himself, and I went down. Aaron was down there, so I spent time playing with him, and Matty Campbell was there and Josh Cabillo, so we had a good group of NT boys, and being down there while Shannon was playing, and Marlon used to come down, and Stephen in the school holidays, North Adelaide would fly them down to play in the school holidays, to play in their junior teams under 15s or under 17s, whatever it was. So, yeah, they built that relationship through Uncle Mark, who was friends with Chris McDermott, and who was coaching at some point when Shannon was playing. So, yeah, went over there and then played a bit of country footy here and there in certain parts, and then, went over and played over at South Fremantle for a year. Went down there with a few other NT boys, Jaden Kicken, Shannon Rioli and Ross Tungatulum. So, lucky enough to share those times, and I'm sure that's when you sit around with some of the older people and they're talking about their footy experiences, I'm sure that those are the types of things that they sort of cherish, is spending those times with each other.
And then Uncle Mark went across to Wanderers.
Yeah, well, Uncle Mark went to Wanderers, I think, and then he went and coached at Southern Districts. So he spent some time there, and then Uncle Eddie was at Wanderers. He's been there for been a stalwart there, and then we I think Dad had a break from footy, so we were sort of just following Southern Districts, who at the time were a really, really great team with Kelvin Maher and Brucey Jarman and Jared Atkins and players like that. It was just awesome to watch. So used to love going down to football and watching those guys. But then we all sort of made a decision. I think then Uncle Mark came and coached Wanderers, who were struggling at the time. I remember a game where they didn't kick a point in the whole game, Wanderers, against Uncle Mark, who was coaching at Southern District. So he came over, had a coaching opportunity. Him and himself and Steve Olsen, who was the president, got the club back on its feet, and got us into a really good window of opportunity, which we've sort of been riding and sort of getting to the tail end of that. But we're in a bit of a development stage at the moment. And
how many Wanderers players were Motlops when Uncle Mark was coaching?
I think there was only myself and Aaron. Or Shannon might have played. I think Shannon played, and then there was an incident with Troy Broadbridge at Melbourne, and when the tsunami hit, and unfortunately he lost his life, and then there was an opportunity for Shannon to go to Melbourne. So he might have played a game there and got redrafted to Melbourne. But there was 3, and I think the rest were still in high school at the time.
Well, tell us about the ones that have gone off and played AFL, and Daniel and Shannon you mentioned, but there's more than that.
Yeah, well, obviously Shannon and Daniel. Shannon was the oldest of us all, and the first to get drafted. It was, it was just really an amazing time when he got drafted. I looked up to Shannon and Daniel. They were just two really good role models to look up to. Really enjoyed watching them play, and couldn't, we used to, back when you used to check the newspaper for the teams. These days you just get it on your app or your Facebook. But they went down. Shannon's, he's been brilliant, beautiful person. Daniel's been, was a really, mercurial player. It was always, it was just a person you couldn't keep. You had to just watch what he was able to do on the oval. Was amazing. Aaron's done what he's been able to do up here. Captain of Thunder. Been playing alongside him for a lot of years, so I really respect him. And then, Marlon got drafted. So that was a really special time for him. Spent time at Port Adelaide, has moved on from that, but still involved at the club in the Indigenous program with Paulie Vandenberg. They've got a great program. Watching him now, he's playing SANFL for, played for North Adelaide, and now he's at Glenelg, so he's still having a really good career and enjoying down there. And obviously we've still got Stephen running around, who's just moved to Port Adelaide, but really enjoy watching Stephen play. He had a great career at Geelong, then moved over, been to a lot of games of his down in Victoria, so. Yeah, really good. Always interested in watching all of those boys play, and we've got another crop coming through, which are all Shannon and Daniel's kids. So keeping an eye on those guys, and also my nephew Jesse, who's in the development program at South Fremantle at the moment.
And of course, Shannon won for North Melbourne when North Melbourne won a premiership.
Yep.
And one of my fondest memories is standing in the crowd for the grand final parade before the match,
Yep.
and I saw him waving, and I said to my wife, he's probably waving at a friend somewhere. And then later on he caught up with me and he said, I was waving at you when I was in the grand final parade. So, but when territory players go away, they do keep an eye out for other Territorians, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. And I think it gives them a burst of energy, to see those players from their hometown or the people from their hometown, and it gives you a boost and really revitalises you because, they get homesick, or they're just in this environment where they're, chasing their dreams. So to see someone where they're familiar with from their community back home is awesome.
And the women, want to talk for a minute about the women. We talked about this before, but the Motlop women, they've been pretty successful in sport as well, haven't they?
Yeah, well, obviously Arnie Des is she's just been a really great competitor in touch. Watching her play, I used to love watching her and my cousin Bo Delacruz playing touch together or against each other. But Arnie Des has been awesome. What she's able to do, and those girls are we're either into their netball or their touch footy. I think the girls are playing a bit of touch at the moment. My cousins, and Lauren's been playing at Wanderers since the women's footy started. So played a lot of footy with Tasha Medbury as well. So. Just really competitive and good to get involved. And a lot of the girls now coming through, now they've got that vehicle to play football. I'm sure they'll be right into it.
And what did you make of the growth and development of women's football to where we have this grand final at the Adelaide Oval, where 54,000 people turn up? Some Territory women are playing for the Adelaide Crows. I mean, some people were pinching themselves, saying, "How is this possible?"
Yeah, I just think it goes to show the following that it has. A lot of those people came from Melbourne to watch Carlton play as well. So, to fill that stadium, it's just awesome. And to, some of the criticisms earlier about women's football were, the skill level and all of that. But you've got to understand that since AFL Women's has come into it, and those girls viewing that game, those girls now are they're going to start probably, now they've all been allowed to play under 12s and under 14s together. Yeah. The skill level's going to rise. And I think, just like women's tennis and, WNBA and things like that, those games that have been around for a long time, women's golf, they're just as skillful as the men. So I think it's awesome. And, some of the things that those players do is awesome.
I thought it was significant that 54,000 turned up to watch the AFLW Women's Grand Final. And then a week later, Geelong played Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, and 45,000 people turned up. So the women got a lot more people turn up to watch them play.
Yeah. It's all. Even in the Northern Territory, it's just exploded. And some of the teams you see down in country Victoria, they've just got an explosion of women's teams now. So they've just created a 50% market increase.
Now, you mentioned Bo Delacruz as a cousin of yours. We've actually spoken to her on the seat here as well. But what an incredible player she's been representing Australia for, I don't know, more than 50 times, and is now currently the captain of the Australian women's over 35 touch team to go off to play in the World Cup. Do you have a strong connection to her and through her dad and that family, the Dela Cruzes?
Yeah, they're from that far north Queensland, Torres Strait Islands as well. So, coming over here, a lot of those families, it's tight. They playing sports, and just seeing her play, I remember, getting her to pass the ball, because we couldn't, back when we were younger, we couldn't believe how hard she could pass that touch ball. So we used to muck around with her, and her and Tasha Medbury and all that were friends with Marnie Des, so used to see them play touch a lot. But magnificent achievement from her in what she's doing.
And the future for you, what do you aim to get in what's remaining of your career? And you've still got quite a bit left.
I'll just continue to play for Wanderers, contribute to that football club and that community of people. Do as best as I can, play my role, and play. Hopefully, get into coaching and see where that takes. Hopefully, if it doesn't, we'll see what happens. But always keen to be involved in what's going on. Of
course, and some of the other Motlops, cousins of yours, have become very entrepreneurial, starting up bush tucker business.
Yeah. It was great. Something Wild. Daniel's obviously started that. It's going great. Bringing people and being able to bring his family into that. Now Daniel Pearce is on board with it. Shannon's doing what he does up here for that, and he's got his cleaning side of it as well. Yeah, he's what they're doing is great. So if you ever want to go catching green ants with Shannon, just give him a buzz and you can climb some trees with him.
All right, look, so nice to talk to you, and we wish you all the best with what you do, the football career in front of you and your professional career as well. But certainly the Motlops have left a great reputation and a great name in territory sport. And if you think they're going to stop, they're not going to. There's a lot more coming through, so stay prepared for many more Motlops that'll join us. Thomas, nice to talk to you.
Thanks a lot.
No.